All right. Good evening, everyone. This is Kelly Greene from the Let's Talk Destiny podcast and the Another High organization. As most of you know, for the last year, so I've been really, really congested. So I'm doing the best I can. And my sister is gonna help that I don't like Wolfman. Yeah. But this, as I've said before, first I want to welcome back to the platform, the one and only, my baby sister, Kelly Greene.
I am
She's
your
going to
only
be
baby sister. I am your only baby sister. Thank you so much.
a Lord. Okay, so now um, the live is available for you to share to your page. Kelly, like, while I'm doing this month, for the month of May, a Mother's Pride in the Let's Talk Destiny podcast will be using as our theme the mother and son relationship. Throughout the month of May, if you as a mother would like to have your relationship with your son highlighted, just email me your picture and a picture of your son with a brief paragraph of the relationship, why it's special to you, and email that to des2017@gmail.com. I will put it in the comments as well. But tonight, I wanted to start this month off talking about the mother-son relationship with my family. And so my sister, and as you know, she has sons, and they're both very, very special to her. And the unique thing, one of the unique things about your relationship with your boy Kelly is the age difference, right? So talk to us a little bit about what it's like to, well, first of all, tell everyone how the age difference between your sons and what it's like to mother those two different ages.
So, my sons are 20 years and 5 months apart. Um, I tell people that one was born the year that E.T. came out in the movies, and the other one was born the 20th anniversary of the E.T. movie. Um, and
Why did
fortunately, I will say,
it?
well, for some reason, when my baby boy, when I was pregnant with him, that correlation came to me. I don't know. It was something I was watching, and it was celebrating the 20th anniversary of ET, and I remembered ET, and I thought, well, that's when Kevin was born in 1982. So the thing that I think for me that is most significant for my boys is that I had Kevin at 18. Um, my senior year in high school, I had Kevin literally February the 9th of my senior year. I remember being in the hospital taking my exams for my senior exams. And I remember, several months later, walking across the stage and graduating, having him. So, time rolls on. And then 20 years later, I'm now 39, 38, going into 39. And I get pregnant with my son, Christian. The funniest things for me, Jamie, is the things people say. I remember people saying to me, so what made you wait so long? And so my response is normally, do you really believe that I waited till my son was 20 years old and decided it was time to have another baby? It definitely was not a plan. But I will say it allowed me to mother as two different people. When I was 18, having Kevin, my definition of being a good mom was, the basics, making sure he was clean, making sure everywhere I went, I took a change of clothes and extra stuff, and making sure I had the diaper bag and I had everything that he needed. And as he got older, making sure he had the new shoes that came out, and he was always dressed up in this cute little whatever. So that was my idea of, and making sure, of course, my parents were around, and so he went to church. He had those foundational things, and that was my idea of being a good parent. However, when I had Christian, I was more focused on him internally than, like, is he okay? How is he developing? How is he feeling? What's going on with him? So even though I just got off the phone just now from an hour and 15-minute conversation with my oldest son, where I'm very close to both of them, but I can't hardly get my baby boy on the phone for 15 minutes. But my oldest, we have a great relationship. It's just different. It's different because he got to experience, and I tell my baby boy, Kevin got to experience me, one, before I knew the Lord, and another when I had more energy. So unfortunately for Christian, he got to know me he's only known me to know the Lord. But he's also not known me to have a lot of energy. So his version of me is always sitting at a computer, whatever. So I feel like, but I definitely have enjoyed the experience of the different generations. And I have this conversation with them often, of how different they are, but how much alike they are. And what I've tried to provide for both of them is that consistency of just being mom.
So, yeah, I still, even with a family member and know, the whole story, or whatever, it's still like cracking up that you have, like, I think the funny thing when I think about the age difference between Kevin and Christian is that Kevin's daughter and Christian were going to the daycare at the same time.
And even and I tell this part and people laugh, but it's true. And I really felt bad because I wasn't able to be that typical grandmother, that, because when Kevin and his wife would come and they would be like, can you come? Can you babysit? I was like, honey, I'm looking for a babysitter myself. Like, honestly, if you get one, can you ask him to watch your brother? And then there were times when they would want to go out and do something. And Christian's father and I, this is when Christian was a little older, and his father and I were no longer together. So his father was very active in his life. So sometimes he would take him, and he'd pick him up from school and keep him over the weekend, or he'd take him back and forth to school. And those would be the weekends that they would call me. I was like, no, if I ain't even got my own kid, I'm not trying to get nobody else's kid. Like, so I was felt.
Grandma.
Listen, I was not the typical grandma. And I'm sorry, y'all, but I'm looking at myself and my shirt is twisted and that's bothering me. So I'm sorry. It's part of my thing. So give me 1 second.
That's a funny her OCD. Y'all pray for her, right? Hey, Charlene. Hey, Ivy.
Okay, so now I feel better. So I really, really, for me, I find it a blessing. And I say this because I remember having Kevin and being in college and saying that Kevin was my motivation for college because I wanted to have better for him. I wanted to show him that in spite of these hiccups, like having a child in in my senior year, it didn't stop me from going on and doing my goals. And then Christian was also a motivation for me to go back to college and to get my master's. And he even remembers now, and he was young, but he remembers going with me sometime to class and having to sit in the back because I didn't have a sitter, but I had to go after work, we had to go to class. So I feel like what I wanted to show my boys, and I hope in some ways I was able to show them, is that life is always gonna like not always do exactly what we wanted. People say life be lifing, but the truth is that sometimes we make choices that aren't the best choices, but that shouldn't define our future. And I wanted my kids to always have that. I definitely, another thing that I think about with these boys, with my two boys, because they're so different, but yet they're alike in this regard. I want it to be, I remember my experience in college was that my teacher, one of the first things she said to me getting out my being a therapist was, everybody needs a soft place to fall. And everybody that kind of knows me, and even you make mention, is I'm a very people would probably perceive me as not an emotional kind of person, very task driven, very focused. But I remember when I had Christian, I remember his dad one day coming home from work. I remember him looking at me and saying, that's a side of you that I don't see often. At the time I think I was sitting on the couch, I was breastfeeding or something, and I was like, what are you talking about? He goes, your tenderness with him is something I don't see often in you. And it gave me a pause, but then I realized that it's something about them. And people say to me even now, like even when I talk about my boys, it brings out that soft maternal side of me just talking about them, whether it's talking about them in a good way or a bad way. It's something about being a mother to those boys, and they are so different. You know them. Like I got one, the one I just spent all of that time on the phone with. I love him, but he's 42 and he's set on his own track, on his own path. And I've learned to allow my children, which is definitely, I'm a therapist. And so immediately when I thought about this program, I thought about the mother-son relationships. And one of the things that is so important, especially early on, is lovingly correcting our children. And then they're going to still take their own path and they're going to still make these mistakes and they're going to still do these things, but being that soft place that they can come back to and say, yeah, I messed up, and without feeling like I'm going to be judged. So I try to give that to my boys. The baby boy, he definitely is one who the minute he needs insight, like about anything, sometimes I feel like they share a little too much with me, but anything he needs insight on, he got a jury duty slip, and he lives in Maryland right now with his father. You get the jury duty slip at his house, but you call me and you want to read it to me. You want me to know what it says. You want to know what you should do about it. And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, your dad's like right there. But for him, his dad is not the safe place or the soft place. So then I said, well, you got to call him the night before. They're saying call him. So then he calls me today and goes, you forgot to tell me to call him yesterday. And I was like, okay, sorry, sir. But again, my point with that is even with Kevin and or Christian, either one, and Kevin's the oldest and Christian is my baby, is that they feel like they can turn here. And even in those moments, and I want to always be that for them. Like we were just talking about how even though they get grown up, they never grow up. In that regard, they're always your children.
I think it's important that our sons always feel that they can come to us no matter what age they are. And that brings up an important issue I wanted to mention to you. Um, this whole thing, I don't know when or how being a mama's boy became a negative thing. Um, because I think a young man that's bonded with his mother is phenomenal. And I don't understand why people make fun of it or how it became a negative thing because what I see is that how a son relates to his mother, the bond that he has with his mother, there's a direct correlation to how he sees the women that will become involved with later on. And one of the things that disturbs me is when I hear somebody making fun of a young man saying, "Your mama's boy," because I think it's a beautiful thing to be able to say, "I have a great relationship with my mom," no matter the age, no matter what I'm going through. The son that we share also been sick the last few days, and if I take you, he's just 3 years old, and coming in my room, laying on the bed, balled up. I'm like, what are you doing? You are a grown man. Get out of here. But he doesn't feel good. He wants his mom. And so I love that. Now, do you feel that, connecting with what I just said, that the relationship that you have with your son has an impact on how they relate to women of your mother-son relationship?
Oh, absolutely. And not only to women, and I'm glad you asked that question because it gives me a chance to share that statistically that it's been shown that boys who do not have a healthy relationship with their mother from growing up to are usually children who have difficulty with all social relationships, not just their like the females, but they have trouble with social skills. They have trouble with what we call it oppositional defiance. That means they resent authorities telling them things, and they have been able to go back and attach that to what relationship they had with their mom. One of the things that Jamie is so critical, and that going back to the point you mentioned about the mama's boy, unfortunately, that has always been the thing that even when you look back, way back in the times like the Little House on the Prairie times, the girls had the options and the boys were, it was assumed that he would grow up and mature and help at the house. And so they gave them, the boys were the ones that when the dad would leave and say, you're the man of the house and you have to take care of this, blah, blah, blah. So the boys were always given a sense of independence and an expectation of bravery before they were ready. So, but what that did for those boys, though, it made them feel that if I was not brave and if I wasn't independent, then I was weak or I was acting like a girl. And think about even in our culture, how we would say to children when a boy falls down and hurts himself, you ain't no little girl, stop that crying. Well, tears are not gender specific. Tears are a sign of pain. So when they were a baby, you didn't say that to them because they were just a baby who used crying to explain something's wrong. And so for some reason in our head, when he gets to be 2 or 3, he can't express his hurt through tears. But how does he express it? So then when he's not allowed to express it, this anger, which I teach is the masking emotion for what's really going on inside of him, now comes up. And then you want to know why you always mad? Well, he's mad because inside of him is all these things he can't even express how he's feeling. And so if he's clingy, or if he, like my boys are huggy kissy, and I'm not huggy kissy with anybody but my boys. Like, even in relationships with like my significant others, I'm not that huggy kissy clingy. Yeah, no. But with my boys, I suck it up. I love it with my boys. And so, because I feel like they need to know it's okay. It's okay if you, and that's why I'm glad that we're not in the same city, because if the son we share needs to be held while he's sick, that is your responsibility. Don't tell him to get out.
Yeah,
I'm
whatever.
sorry. I can't hear
Whatever.
you. Okay. Because a lot of times, I tell people this all the time with parenting, even with adult children, it's not what we say, it's what they hear, right? So if he's sick and you're saying get out, and I'm not trying to like browbeat you, but what he may hear in that is, when I'm sick, my mom doesn't want to have to take care of me. She wants me to tough it out, which goes back to what we say to our kids when they're younger.
Well, he didn't leave when I told him to get out. You
No,
already
no,
know
no.
that.
I'm not saying you. I'm saying in general. That's why I said it's not even about, it's about how we're not even aware sometimes how people interpret what we say. And so our boys, when they're young, we're giving them some kind of idea of what the expectation from the world is going to be. He learns that through the relationship with his mother. So there are some things, there are like 5 things, if you don't mind, I'd like to share that I feel like are really important in this mother-son relationship that I work on. And sometimes we got to go back and work on again. And the first one is to make our love for our children very clear and verbal, right? We can't say, well, he know I love him, I feed him, he got a roof over his head. No, no. Just like, again, remembering, and I work with children all the time, and I say this to teachers and to administration, they're people too, they have feelings. And so just because he's acting out in a bad behavior, that doesn't mean he doesn't want to be loved. That, and maybe a part of why he's acting out is because he doesn't feel loved. So to say to our children, I love you, whether they be little or older, is necessary. But it's so important when they're little to know through words, I love you, mommy loves you. That creates in them this unconditional love response, that no matter what I do, my mommy loves me. No matter what happens, my mommy loves me, because my mommy tells me all the time she loves me. My mommy kisses me on the forehead all the time and says she loves me. And even when she has to correct me, she may have to give me a spanking, whatever. At the end of it, she says, but I love you, right? So you know I love you. Make sure that we are very clear verbally to our children, not through, we talk about love languages and things like that, but for our children, that verbal language is so crucial in helping them like get a clear consciousness of who they are and where they are. I think about it like people have different ways of expressing love, and that's cool. But at our children, especially our boys, they need to hear it clearly and concisely. I love you.
It's funny because just about everybody knows my situation as with my oldest son. And even right now, as an adult, in the situation that he's in, is very adamant to make sure that we say we love each other when we do. Even though there was a season in our relationship where we were estranged by his fault because of some of the things that he was involved in, he didn't want me to even know some of the stuff that he was doing. But it always came down to, I remember the day, and I say this a lot, and there are a couple of people here who have children who are sons who are incarcerated as well. And I'm going to share this part. I remember the day that he was arrested and they allowed him to call home. And the very last thing he said to me was, before they took the phone from him, was, Mom, whatever happened, he's going to bed. So in spite of everything that had happened all the way leading up to that, he knew that he wanted his mom to be there. I remember sitting in the courtroom, and time I would move, he would turn around and look at me to make sure I wasn't leaving. So even in his most stressful times, he knew that that bond that we had way back, like you said, when he was a child, that bond was still there. In spite of the circumstances, my mom got my back. And I think that is so, so, so important. Now, let me ask you this question. Because your children are adults now, and you don't always see eye to eye on everything, um, I'm sorry. What is the way that you handle conflict between you and your
Well, because the other one of the other things that they need from us is the space to grow. So I've said this to, especially, of course, my baby boy is still like, he's still around the nest a little bit, but the other one has gone out. And so he'll ask me what I think he needs to do, and I'll tell him what I think would be best in that moment. And then he doesn't do it. And then something doesn't turn out right. And I don't go back and say, I told you to da 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 da. But I give him the space to grow, give him the space to evaluate his choices. And I've always said to both of my children, and I say it to my kids that I work with, I say, make your choices your own, because your consequences are your own. Nobody's going to take your consequences for you. And I don't care who else is doing whatever it is that you're doing. And one of the parents and I were laughing because she came to the school and yoked her son up. And she said, I don't care what the other kids are doing. I'm not their mom. Like, your mom don't play that. So that's not how I would have handled it. But, I let everybody parent, long as it's not abuse. So, but I think one of the things, especially as they're getting older, is giving them the space to grow. Now, I'll give you an example with my baby boy. He was in the honors program in high school. And of course, they are always pushing an honors class, like, what are you doing after school? Go to college, go to college, go to college. And it gave him such an anxiety that he came home to me and he was like, his senior year, he's like, Mom, everybody knows what they're going to do but me. I don't know what I'm going to do. Mom, I said, bro, breathe. Here's the thing. They don't know what they're going to do either. I said, if you look, and I like to give my son, my baby boy especially, I like to give him statistical information because he's he's the type of person, when he goes in the store and wants to buy something, he stands there and pulls up the reviews on it first. And it was like, well, yeah, I pulled up the reviews on that. And I'm like, boy, ain't nobody got time for you to be in the store getting up. But he makes the determinations based on what he considers to be facts. So I say to him, if you Google it, you'll find that most children that go to college straight out of high school, it is almost over 50% of them that either drop out, change their major or something, because they don't know. At 17, you're not supposed to even know what the rest of your life is looking like. You're not supposed to know that. Like, that's not, some of us got to be 30, 40, 50 and still didn't know what our life was going to look like. So I told him, I said, so you go back, and the next person that asks you, like, what you doing after school, says, I'm not really sure. My mom said I'm going to take a year to just figure things out. And I wanted him to have that space to grow. Now, I made a choice in that year to send him to his dad so that his dad could give him some of that manhood stuff that I couldn't give him. But I also said, when you turn 21, we will come back and have this discussion. And I want you to be thinking between 18 and 21, what you want your life to look like. And he said to me just the other day, he goes, I love that you gave me the space, but I also love that you gave me a deadline, because I could have just kept right on. He said, but I knew that we were going to have that conversation, so I had to give it some thought. So I think of it with my kids, and even the oldest, because he even tonight referenced, I know you told me to do so-and-so, Mom, and I didn't do it. But I never came back and said anything. I mean, just like us, we know when we've made a mistake and we know when we're wrong, and nobody wants to hear, I told you so, or you should have listened, because that's not, it's like your dad and my dad, who I love very much, like when he would give us money and then you spend it and you come back for more, his question was, well, what did you do with it? Well, I spent it. Like, what do you think I did with it? But the question is, are you going to give me some more? Like, why? And so
give me some more.
The difference between, I guess, you and Sylvia and me was that I didn't want to hear all of that extra talking. And I remember Mom, who said to me one day, she said, you know he's going to give it to you. Just let him talk. I said, I don't feel like hearing all that. Just either give me the money or don't, right? But she told me, well, he's digging in his pocket. But yeah, but I got, y'all think I made of money? You think money made on trees? He didn't read the book. So I get it. He didn't know. Like, but honestly, I was like, oh my God. So and here's the other part. And I don't want to say nothing bad about your parents, but I will say this. A lot of my experience with them helped me to know what I didn't want to do with my children. But one thing they did do, now I'm going to put them up on a pedestal about this, because they did psychology before psychology was really popular, because I didn't know that we had a choice on whether we could go to church or not. Did you? It wasn't even. Okay, like parents. We did it. That's what I'm saying. Because they did psychology on us. They never came to us and said, are you going? Or what they would just say, it's time to get ready, right? So you didn't even. So I'm thinking to myself, looking back, I really had a choice. I'm like 14, 15 years old, right? But it was like, it's time to get ready for church. Never like, are you going? So this generation now gets the, are you going to church or what? So, but we didn't even, so that was psychology though. They had already programmed us. You don't have a choice. You don't have a choice. You're going to church. That's not an option. So, okay. So I love you guys. Okay. But but a real talk, in answer to your question, even then, is that space to grow is so important, because like we're all growing. So even when our children get to be adults and you tell them what to do and they're not doing what you need them to do, you give them that space to grow. But I will also say this, and you remember this particular time, because I hear you mention it a lot. At some point though, as a mom, if I see you, I'm giving you the space to grow and you're not thriving, I'm not going to watch you fall. So my oldest son had a time in his life where I'm giving you this space. I'm telling you, this is what you need to do. I'm trying to be supportive of what you believe is right for you and for your life. And it's not working. And so when I say to you, well, where are you? What's going on? And then you tell me, and you're not in a good place. Now the mother in me is like, you got to come home and start over. Like that's not, I'm not going to sit here and give you space to grow and watch you fall off the cliff. Because that is, I'm so sorry. I thought my phone was on Do Not Disturb. It was not. So yeah, so that is one of my big things I tell people all the time. Oh my goodness.
What's going on over there?
Turned my thing off and ended up getting pictures. Well, praise the Lord. But yeah, so giving our children space to grow sometimes means letting them do what we don't agree with that they should be doing, but at the same time, not letting them totally destroy their life. Like, I'm going to give you space to make and try to give you good examples of what I think your life should look like. I'm going to try to encourage you in the areas where I feel like you need to be built up or gain strength. But I'm also not going to sit over here and say, well, it's your life. Do what you want to do. You're a grown man, and know that what the choices you're making are destroying you. So that part is also for me important, and the balance to it, the balance to it, to parenting is there are times when I need to step in and say, hey, listen, I gotta, put the bass in my voice, like, as you know, like I did with my son, and I didn't give him a choice. It's like, I'm coming to get you. It wasn't, oh, you think you need to come home, or do you think, no, you need to come home, period. And so I love that we allow them that space, but I love that also they know if it's not, because even when he tells the story, and he said, I just told my friends, like, I just got to go home with my mom for a while. It was like, I don't know what else he told him, that the reason why I had to come home, and I didn't care. I just needed him to take a step back from the life he was living and refocus. And I say this, Jamie, all the time. Our parents, sometimes to our, maybe they shouldn't have so often, but they were always there. I was grown and left home and did things. And then when I needed to come back, it was there. Like there was no, well, you thought you was grown, stay on out there. No, there was always, you could come back. And that's, I knew that was good. So a space to grow, and that allows them, because again, going back to your father, sometimes he struggled with realizing that, yes, we are your daughters, but we're adults, and you have to give us that space to grow. And I remember many times he would say to me, because, him and I were a lot alike. And so we would have our little conflicts, and he would say things like, the child trying to tell the parent what to do. Talking about me.
Right.
And I would say, I am your daughter, but I'm not a child. As a matter of fact, I have children. I'm a grown-up. I'm like the man that was eating the ice cream. I'm a grown-up. So that's the other part. When I have a conflict with my children, I have to remember that they are grown-ups. And even though I know that what they're doing is like maybe like really not a good idea, I still have to give them that space because they're a grown-up. And the way I learned was through my own, like people would say, didn't you learn anything from somebody else's? You don't learn from other people's experiences. People say they do, but the truth is I may look at that and go, oh man, I don't want that to happen to me. But I still have to do something to cause that not to happen to me. So it has to be my own experience. So like giving them that space to grow is so crucial, even in conflict. Like let them do their thing. They'll be back.
I just ignored telephone calls from
who?
Byron. Hopefully he'll call back after I get off the air.
I hope so. So you probably should have made, but you don't know when he's going to call either, because we say you probably could have made this another time.
Right.
But yeah, so that's important. But I definitely want us to understand and be mindful when we're talking about the mother-son, because a lot of the mother-son relationships happened without strong masculine presence. So fortunately for us, our father was there for most of our children's lives. And then for my youngest, his father was there when my father passed away. So he's always had a father. He's always had a male who represented the paternal side of the family. And our children have had that, but there are so many that don't. And so what I say to mothers is please don't give kids this illusion that they don't need nobody else because you can be their mama and their daddy, because that is absolutely not the truth. I can never, ever, ever be anybody's father because I was never a little boy. I never was a boy in puberty. I never was a boy trying to find a wife. I never was a boy. I never was a male, period. So what I can be is the best mother that I know how to be. And that goes back to that part about us being transparent enough in their space to be honest about our own challenges. Like, I can't, I remember my oldest son, um, his, my husband died and was the father that he was around, not his biological father, but during that time, he was spent more time with my husband. So for him, it was a tremendous loss. Him and his biological father then developed a relationship. And I needed to explain the choices I made on why his biological father was not in his life prior. And how much of that, how much you explain to him is up to that. But here's what I know that every child, I work with kids in the foster program that have been adopted, and every person wants to know where they came from, why they look the way they look, who they, and so I say the choices on who are the fathers of the children were not the child's choices, they were ours. And so owning that and making the choices whether the parent is in or out of their life. So I remember one day, and I laughed because one day I had a conversation with my oldest son, trying to give him the scenario under which I made the decision. But I said, but now your father is reaching out to you. And what I will say to that is, if you want to have that relationship, you can have it, but start it right here. Don't worry about what happened back then, because whatever happened happened and it's over. But let's move forward right here. And honestly, like, I'm crying and I'm like, I just thought I was doing what was best, and maybe it wasn't. And I'm pouring my heart out, and I never forget it. I'm riding and I'm taking him to drop him off somewhere, and I'm telling him this story. I feel like he needs to know that it wasn't all your dad, like he abandoned you at all. It was choices I made too that made me say that whatever happened. He just got out of the car and was like, okay, mom, see you later. So then I was thinking, well, did I need to tell him the story? But then later, after he got a relationship with his dad, I feel like it helped him to heal from not having his dad, because he realized it wasn't just his dad, like, just, I don't want to be with you or whatever, because that wasn't the case. And so my point with that is, as mothers, we are such powerful influences in our children as they're growing up. And so being mindful of what we say and how we say it, even in reference to maybe their dad wasn't the best dad, but it's their dad. And what we end up doing is creating a situation where the child isn't sure, not even about your love, because they may feel like, well, like, what happened? And then everybody got a story. So the father's story might be, I tried to see you and then mom wouldn't let me, and now they're mad with you. So I feel like a lot of times, if we just let things be what they are, like, there will be a time, and like Kevin was a teenager, I think, when I told him this story, when we can tell our story. But while they're growing up, all they need to know is they are loved. They will not skip a beat of being loved, even if it's not who society says should love them. So I feel like that's important. I feel like if there's not a strong male around, and when I say a good example too, being mindful of how we let other men treat us in front of our children as an example of how, like, they can't see every man coming and eating steaks while I'm feeding you oodles of noodles. Like, what am I saying to you? What am I saying to you when I let a man call me out of my name? What am I saying to you when I allow him to take advantage of me? What am I saying to you as a man?
You're using your body as a train depot. Like, it's a new station of your enterprise. Like, what are you telling your son about how he's supposed to treat women, girls, as he gets older? We're gonna be winding this up in a minute, but before I forget, I want to I don't know if you can see comments or not, but
Yeah.
with Sean, say hello, mother.
I can't hear you. Say it again, babe.
Rashawn Wharton. You remember Rashawn? He said hello,
Yes.
mother.
Hello, son. And you know, it's funny because I thought about him the other day. Please give him my number and tell him to call me. It's funny because I was talking about all the children that I've had come through my life the other day, and people have just been calling me out of the blue like lately, and it's mainly been girls, and I think it was because I had boys, but Rashawn was really my first son outside of birth that I like took in, and yeah, of course I remember Rashawn. That was my darling. Yeah, wonderful. No, I can't see anything. It's just me and you is all I see.
All right. Well, we'll make sure that he gets your phone number. So as
Yes.
we're closing down tonight's conversation, I cannot not address this because as a mental health professional, and this is Mental Health Awareness Month, what is one special nugget that you would give to mothers regarding the importance of addressing their own mental health as a mom? Because there are specific challenges that we have that are unique to motherhood. What is like a major piece of advice that you would give to us?
I love this because I wrote this note to myself to mention that we have invisible faults to our children. And when we have that great relationship with them, they never see our faults. And sometimes it puts us in a place where we feel like we can't show it to them, but that's not helpful. I said to a mom one time in therapy, she said, so I just go in my room and cry because I don't want my kids to see me cry. And I said, and why don't you want them to see you cry? And she says, I don't know. I said, well, don't they, them not seeing you cry would say that crying isn't acceptable. It isn't a normal response to pain, to hurt. I said, they see you get angry. They see you get frustrated. They see you be all these other things. So this emotion of sadness or hurt, they need to know that that is normal in you too, because they need to know that just because you are upset or crying or whatever, that things are going to be good. And when I put down invisible faults, I thought about how our children, when we love them, they really see us with this unconditional love that is always, you're just mom and you can do no wrong. And I thought about, my mind went back to that time that I saw the video of me almost 250 pounds. And I got mad with you and Christian, and I was like, how y'all didn't say nothing to a sister like, like you sis, push away from the table. It's fast time. Nothing was said. And I literally was so fat. And I said to Christian, why didn't you say anything? And he looked at me, and those of you that know my son, and he just looked at me and he goes, that's just how I know you. And I'm thinking not only is it he knew me as fat, but what he knew me as, because I was thinking I wasn't that fat the whole time he knew me now. But what I'm thinking, what he was saying was, I just knew you as mom, right? So they never see those faults that we think other people may look at your mom and go, man, your mom's ugly. But to you, she's just mom. Man, your mom's fat. But to you, so our faults are invisible to them. So we don't want them, though, to go through life thinking that emotional things don't happen, that we're super women, that we don't have. Are you still laughing about me being fat?
Charlene is talking about stop that laughing, Jason.
Right. Because being fed is no joke, because they didn't help me. They didn't support me, Charlene. They just let me get fatter and fatter. And nobody even said, what's going on with you? Like, and I mean, and I know it, even, and I was mad with my husband too. He told me, no, you ain't fat. You just got a little stomach. Stop lying. Like, here I am wearing, but it's okay. But my point was that my son said, this is how I know you. I just know you as mom. So whether I was fat or skinny or whatever, he just knew me as mom. Our kids just know us as mom. So don't be hard on yourself, but don't be afraid to be honest. You have bad days, but you're still going to be mom to them. I have days that I'm sad, but I'm still going to be mom. I tell my boys, like, most of the time, my son just said, when you on your grind, most of the time I don't hear nothing from you. He said, but when you're sick, you call and you be like, how come ain't nobody calling, checking on their mom? Like, because I'm mom, and I want them to know that, yeah, I spend most of my time on my grind, but when I'm not feeling good, there are days I want to hear from my children. I want my children to call me and check on me. Don't hide your emotions, because when we hide them, especially from our sons, we're teaching them that they're not okay, and that's not true. And that's why we have so many people, that are so many young boys who are oppositionally defiant, because they got this pent up rage, or this pent up, I can't even cry when I'm sad. I can't even show that I'm upset about something, because people, boys, shut up, get somewhere and go sit down. You'll be all right. Like, wipe the blood off and put a bandage on. Go sit. You can't even like have pain. So what happens when their heart gets broken? What happens when that girl that they really had a crush on was like, I don't like you, you ugly? What happens when they need help in school and somebody go, you dumb, you special ed? And they have, so you know what they end up doing? Fighting.
Right.
So,
right.
Because we didn't show them that it's okay to say, that hurt my feelings. Yeah. So I want to I'm doing this thing like every day or so, coming on, and I'm saying the same thing over and over, and I'll be saying it all week. Mental health awareness is not identifying a mental illness or a mental disorder. It's simply checking in. Am I okay? And if I'm not okay, go get, and I tell this, don't get no social media guru with no experience. Go get some professional help. And sometimes that just means having a conversation with a professional. You ain't got to go get no pills. You ain't got to go get no evaluation, no assessment. Sometimes just being able to talk it out, right? And so that's what I would feel like would be one of the greatest gifts we can give our children, so that they don't get the brunt of our frustration or our anger, because we're not sharing it, because we're trying to pretend like everything's okay when it's not.
I love that. And it's like, even as we're closing, I just want to say that it is like, one of the most parts of our human experience is being trained and programmed not to feel what we feel. And like you said, from birth, the baby cries to let you know I'm wet, I'm hungry, something's bothering me. And that's how we know. They fall down, they come and we, kick the boo-boo, or whatever needs to be done. And then somewhere around 2, 3 years old, that same child falls down and swings their leg, and you say, suck it up. You're not a little girl. Stop acting like a baby. Stop whining. Da, da, da. So he's learning, okay, so the next time I hurt myself, I'm not gonna say anything. And then you wonder why when you get old enough to get in relationships, then the daughters that are, coming to our sons, they're crying. This man has no emotion. This man has no feeling. My man won't talk to you. That's because your man has been programmed to not. And so we have got to do better with that.
We do. Right. It starts at the beginning, Jamie. So it's important that we realize that we can start trying to reprogram some people, but it's a lot easier if we start out in the beginning. Let them be a person. Don't give like girls cry. Boys cry too. Real men cry.
Everybody with tear ducts cries. Even the young man that you have dubbed my husband. Sometimes I have to tell his father and mother when he's upset and they're saying boys don't cry. Yes, boys do cry. Leave them alone. Let them cry. And they said that's why he always comes running to you because I immediately pick him up. Hey, what's wrong with Nana's baby? You wanna cry? What's wrong? So I just feel like to start, and I think this is the perfect conversation to start this month about the mother-son relationship because it's taking us back to the basics, right? It's taking us back to from the moment they put that baby in your hands for the first time, you are given a precious gift. And there is nobody. And I was thinking about this and I don't want to start the conversation all up again. But I know down through the years that you and I have talked about even the children that you have done therapy with or whatever, even if their mothers mistreated them or physically abused or whatever, they still want their mother. It's just a divine connection there. So yeah. All right. Well, I get ready to go. In case my son wants to call me back, I don't feel allowed to. I want to be my number one fan. But I thank you so much for joining me tonight. And it was a great conversation. You did pretty good.
Thank you.
Might let
I've
you
been
come back.
practicing. Please have me come back again.
I talk to my team and see if we'll let you come back.
See if y'all can squeeze me in. Squeeze me in. My older sister used to say, I do weddings and bar mitzvahs and funerals.
That girl is great. Thank you to everyone who came tonight. I really, really, really appreciate your support. Blessings, Apostle Lynn Fortune. I can't read all the whole long name because my glasses is bad. But Pastor Lynette, you know who it is, Trey? Kelly.
Yes. Yes.
Blessings.
Oh, tell her I said hello. It was great to. She's a mother of boys. It's great. I mean, we're mothers. Boys are something special. I'm just gonna put that out there. I love the girls, but I'm telling you, the boys will make you smile. They make you smile.
Yeah. All right, ladies. Thank you so much, and thank you guys for joining us. Apostle Lynn, I will talk to you very soon. I'd love to have you on the show as well. I'm here ready to go, get myself situated while I can breathe. And again, thank you so much, PK, for joining me tonight. Also,
My pleasure.
See underneath her name, she is president and founder of Therapy for Abundant Life, which is a mental health therapeutic business. I really think that you should reach out to her. This is Mental Health Awareness Month. It's not, just trying to get a diagnosis. It's not saying you're crazy. None of that. It is helping you to stay healthy mentally. So if you need someone to talk to, reach out to me and set up an appointment. All right. Thank you guys so much. Talk to you later.
Okay. Love you too. Bye-bye.